Wala, and you are watching Global Abundance Organization, GAO TV. And this is Abundance Show, your favorite one. And as you all know, that I keep featuring the change
Okay.
makers, the people of impact. And today, this is Betty Henra from Ghana, and she is finance and administration professional. Her emerging focus is on urban infrastructure, and she is an advocate for women empowerment, and she is an accelerator for the climate, and she is an entrepreneur. Hey, Betty, how are you, Henra? How are you, lady? Please introduce yourself. Can you hear me? Miss Henra, can you hear me?
Okay, thank you very much, Zafar. My name is Henra. I'm from Ghana. I work with Alliance for Empowering Rural Communities, organization where we based in Ghana, where we work at the intersection of the environment, youth empowerment, climate justice issues, and climate action in Ghana, and mobilizing young people for this purpose. It's such a pleasure to. And like rightly said, I am a professional in the finance and administration with an immense focus on urban and infrastructure issues. And one of the most key things for is the fact that young people in cities, not only young people, but people dignified access and people can get a dignified way of life that they can live. Services are easy for people to reach, and people do not get affected by climate disasters as they live in the cities and also in communities in which they come from.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Henra. My first question: you begin your career
Yes,
in
yes, I can hear
finance,
you.
and thank you. So I'm posing my first question. So you began your career in finance and administration. What inspired you to transition into urban development, climate resilience, and infrastructure across Africa? Do you want to take the question again?
Can you hear me the first time? So my name is Iveta Henkra. Do I move from the introduction into phase of question or
Yes,
so my
you're
name
good
is
to
Iveta
go
Henkra from
for the
Ghana.
answering the question.
I'm a okay. Should I go on with that question, Zafar? Okay, so my name is Iveta Henkra
Yes.
from Ghana. I work with Alliance for Empowering Rural Communities, which is a youth-led organization based in Ghana. We work at the intersection of climate justice issues, sustainability issues, environmental issues as well. And we are one of the focuses that moved me from finance admission is the dignified way of living, not only on service but also on their way of living, and also the branch of climate risk or disasters that they face. Issues like issues like flooding, issues like other sensitive issues that may plague our cities. When we talk about water scarcity or what cities face, including affordable living. So I can say that these are some of the things that made me have a much more zoomed or focused look at emerging urban issues that arise in our cities and made me go in for this portfolio that I currently handle, Alliance for Empowering Rural Communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hinkara. My next question is about urban resilience and human dignity. As you were saying earlier, you said that urban resilience is a dignity issue. What does that mean? And how can cities better protect people from climate related disasters?
Right. So, like I rightly said, one of the things that made me look at urban and infrastructure as a very sensitive portfolio is most of the reports from the UN Habitat, which zooms in right on affordable living for people in cities. Because when you look at housing, it's a very delicate issue in most of our cities. And dignified not only to earn a living or live freely, but it's also look at how we can prevent climate risks from strikes. So when you talk about a dignified life, it means people are able to move and live freely in their cities and also learn a living and take the school without climate risks interrupting their lives. So a good example of such climate risks are flooding, waste, heat, transport, informal settlements. When you come to cities across Africa, you can say that slum or informal settlements contribute some percentage to the affordable living crisis. And this is a very key issue for most of our urban cities to look at when it comes to planning, that we have to try and avoid urban as possible. We need to plan cities grow outwardly. They grow along with the systems that are put in place to accommodate people. So when you look at what a resilient city means, it doesn't mean that a city that is not that is more prone to disaster. No. Our cities are prone to east, but then the likelihood that these issues become a human tragedy is brought to a bare minimum.
Wow, that's an amazing urban resilience as a dignity issue response. My next question is about Africa's voice in global climate negotiations. Through your experience with African Youth Negotiators Fellowship, what is the biggest lesson about ensuring local African communities are represented in global climate policy?
Right. That's a very good question. Because when you look at the African landscape, I would like to reference my African Youth Negotiators Fellowship that I recently came from. One of the key things that I looked at going into that fellowship was the fact that young voices, we say that 65% of youth contribute to the African, or 65% of youth make up the African continent. But then, how well are these issues that the youth keep talking about represented on the global stage? And one of the biggest lessons, I don't want to draw or go too much into the fellowship, is the fact that effective negotiation begins long before you enter the negotiation room. It's very important for you to understand it's very important for you to understand the policy, the finance, the politics, and also working it together with grassroots action or grassroots information. You can have a typical example like Alliance for Empowering Rural Communities. We work with the grassroots. We are able to use firsthand. A very typical example of this is on World Environment. We engaged the community and we spoke to them about the need for them to actually work on segregating their waste. So when I took this to the African Youth Negotiators Fellowship, I understood that it's important that on the global front, we need to let the world understand that Africa is plagued by so many issues. It's plagued by flooding, it's plagued by heat stress. Currently, the IPCC report states that in Africa, temperature and heat are the main two conditions that contribute to the African climate stress. So when you look at this, translating it to the global front is very important that we need to let the global north understand that these issues, the emissions, We need to have robust mitigation systems in place. Let's push for more adaptation plans. Let's push for more mitigation measures to ensure that Africa does not bear the brunt of these climate issues. When it comes to the negotiations, we are able to let them understand that these are the issues we are coming from our communities with, and we are bringing it on the global stage for you to understand that we experience these issues firsthand. These are our lived experiences. These are our realities. These are the things that our communities face. Women and young children all have issues. There's drought in the Horn of Africa. In other African regions, there's water scarcity. This is a big problem. So bringing it to the global stage, it transcends from bringing it from the communities, then we move it up to the global stage for them to understand that when it comes to negotiation, you can't negotiate finance. Adaptation measures need to be put in place. We need to ensure that sea defenses are working for the people. We need to ensure that coastal erosion is tackled from the roots head on, and adaptation finance is serving the purpose for which it's intended to do. So one of the key things that I would like to address is the fact that communities are mostly absent from negotiations, and often policies miss the very people that is meant to address. But then we have young people who are pushing the issues to the front of the global conversation or dialogue to ensure that issues are tackled head on. There are no excuses given, and finance is serving its purpose, the benefits of communities or the benefits of meeting climate risks that are facing.
Oh my goodness, I mean, if the communities are missing while the negotiations are going on, then who's the heading the negotiation with whom? Okay, I mean, this is the great concern. My next question is about building inclusive cities. As African cities grow rapidly, how can government balance urban planning, environmental sustainability, and the need of vulnerable communities?
It's very important. Inclusion is very, very important, that we are able to co-create solutions that work for the people and that serve the purpose for which it is intended. One of the things that I would like to note is that cities need planning regulations. It's very important that we note that not only enforcement can solve decades of unplanned urban growth. It's important that we engage the community. We are able to have roundtable discussion, focus group discussions, which are able to get their opinions on board so that we can shape projects that work for the people. It's important to know that as we do so, we can inculcate affordable housing, better planning systems, early warning systems. This is very crucial for most cities in sub-Saharan Africa and also East Asia as well, because warning systems are important to raise awareness. When there's a natural disaster occurring, people are able to respond swiftly to it, move to safety, and also ensure that get affected, because most of we realize that these issues can either be man-made or most often by our own activities. So it's multidimensional or multifaceted when you look at it. That in as much as it's also a developmental problem, it's also a social problem, it's also an economic problem, because it affects livelihoods, it affects people's jobs, it affects security, it affects the very thing that people dwell on it. And it's important that we put for investment in these areas. Note that we engage city planning authorities to ensure they have um, that plan cities ahead. So the fact that cities are planned, they need to be planned even before things start happening, so that we can comment as much as possible. And true resilience, relation with caution. So it's very important that as we plan our cities, we gender sensitive. We plan with women in mind. We plan with children in mind. We include all these gender issues that may come up in planning. How safe are our streets at night? How are we sure that The street lights that are inculcated in city planning and metrics are able to serve women. Women feel safe walking at night. Children can easily get access to transport. Waste systems are in place that are avoiding improper ways by which people dispose of waste or open dumping issues. Let's allocate a place for landfill. Let's recycle. Let's cut down on production as much as possible. Look at planning. It's a systemic issue. It's an integrated issue which not only incorporates housing but also looking at early warning systems and also engaging communities as we plan move on to build better cities for all. Thank you.
Oh, wow, thank you so much. Cities should be planned well before time, before settlement happens, and the women should, the women and children must be safe, and the environment must be safe, and this all should be kept in mind while planning the urban cities. Wow, that's a great takeaway from your this stance. I mean, my next question is about then. I mean, this is hard. This is hard, and hard of the hard question is an abundant future for Africa. I really, really pray and I manifest an abundant future for Africa. And I believe the future, Africa is already abundant. And we just need to tune into abundance. And the question is, looking ahead, what gives you the greatest hope that Africa can achieve future of green growth, climate resilience, and shared prosperity? Over to you.
Okay, that's a very beautiful question because when you look at Africa, like you rightly said, we do not lack ideas. We Africa does not lack ideas, and the most beautiful thing about all of this is the fact that we have most of the youth on the continent from Africa, and we have youth, we have innovation, we have technology, we have indigenous knowledge. One of the key things that I would like to zoom onto on the indigenous knowledge is the fact that when Africa, we have mostly have agriculture as our backbone of most of the economies in Africa. And if you look at sustainability, most of our zoom right into Ghana. In Ghana, we have climate smart agricultural practices which are taking the forefront of most of our agriculture systems. When you look at how farmers are able to plant drought resistant crops to ensure that even though there may not be all year round rainfall, the crops are being fed. We are able to feed our communities. We are able to feed the cities. And when you look at this knowledge, it has transcended. Now, smart agriculture is a big thing now in Ghana. We are looking at how we can use energy to work on these farms to power machinery to also ensure that systems are solar powered. So these are some of the innovations coming out of the African landscape. And when you look at how civil societies are working hand in hand with governments currently, Alliance for Empowering Rural Communities is working with a municipal assembly, with a local government to work at training women on the need to inculcate organic waste because we realize that most of our cities in Africa have an organic waste problem. It's a general waste problem, but zooming in right into organic waste, we realize that this is a very important resource that women can learn from. We can teach them how to make compost to feed our soils. As we feed the soils, we get plentiful harvest, we get bountiful harvest, and we can ensure that food scarcity is a thing of the past. And when you look at innovation coming out from Africa, it's so amazing that we have people currently. There was one innovation that I saw from Kenya where it's looking at creating bags from water hyacinth. This is a plant which is in the water, which is able to restore waterways and avoid what's the name, droughts from happening, and water bodies from being the sun and all of that. So when you look at some of the innovation coming out, and currently the Green Africa Youth Organization also has the African Climate Innovation Challenge, where they support young entrepreneurs together with other governmental organizations to ensure that innovation from Africa is working for the people who, coupled with the indigenous knowledge, working for the people for which it's intended to work for. And this is one of the beautiful things that is coming out of the African landscape, that we need to ensure that there's stronger collaboration, sustained investments, and the courage to implement solutions at scale. So as a sustainable future, of course, we are working together with the government. The youth are joining hands, coming up with great and bold ideas that are shaping the future of our African cities and the world at large.
Oh my goodness, I mean, you took my heart. This is fantastic response to Abundant Africa, and I really, really see Africa has got everything any country or any continent needs. You've got abundant trees, abundant oceans, water, and every human and the human resource is really amazing. The resilience you people have, the dignity you people have. I mean, it's of in its own kind, and you are rich in every mean and manifestation we think of. And I wish you all the best for your all endeavors. And I want you to please join Global Abundance Organization's cause. And since we are also featuring change makers, the people like yourself, like I mean, you're in Ghana, and I mean, I really salute and admire the height of your ideas and your professionalism and you want to and your inclusivity into the all actions, be it finance, be it administration, be it climate, or anything like be it negotiations. Like I mean, you are creating the future of abundant Africa. I can see that, and there are a lot other people like yourself in Africa who are growing fruit trees for food. Those who are working for um, uh, taking people from thinking of scarcity to thinking of abundance. And I would want your advice and the message to the planet lastly. Back to you.
Okay, so one of the key things that the African Youth Negotiations Fellowship taught me is that we need to have a unified voice as one Africa. As you rightly said, the continent has great minds, great ambitions to move from dependency to dependency. And it's very important that as we do so, we give young people the opportunity, like myself, young people the opportunity to grow, to flourish, and to ensure that they are seen, they are given the opportunity to lead, to shape the future of the continent. And one of the key things that I have stood for is the fact that I hope to contribute to cities, African cities that are include resilient and centered on people. When I talk about this, I talk about the fact that growing up as a young woman, one of the things that really shaped my attention, moved me away from finance and administration, is the fact that flooding affects every person. Just it may affect people in Accra, it can affect other people in Lagos, it affects other people in Nairobi, just as it affects me in Accra. And one of the things is when I walk through a flooded street to access education. That changed my mindset. And I understood that this is not only for a group of people to talk about. The climate crisis is bigger than we see. It's important that we all have a unified voice. We can push for adaptation on the national level, on the local level. We can push for fairer and inclusive policies for all. And currently, we have the National Adaptation Plan in Ghana, the climate change action plan. There are so many policies that have been put in place to ensure that we adapt and mitigate the effects of climate change. And it's important that we all can have a unified voice. We all can contribute. Currently, as I speak to you now, I'm starting a new brand which I call Renew. I'm very focused on waste systems and how we can beat waste to the minimum, where we can look at rebranding. Waste is not only waste, it doesn't have to be regarded as waste. It's a resource that can improve their life. It can create green jobs for people. It can help reduce redundancy. It can help mitigate the effects of flooding. It can also help communities and cities to be well planned. Because when you look at this single crisis issue, you can realize that there's much more to it than we are currently doing. As I speak to you now, there's a brand that I'm starting, which is called Renew. I'm starting a composting initiative personally, looking at collecting discarded textiles and rebranding them into. And who am I doing this? Of course, with women, with young women like myself, with women between the ages of 30 to 50 years, because most often these women in our homes, in most African homes, are at home when their children go to school. They are left to care for the home, and they don't have any source of livelihood to support them. So this is currently what I'm also doing on the side of with my organization, where we can look at being innovative, creative. Let's think of green jobs. Let's think of inculcating other people into the system and pushing for one voice. Let's push for more finance on these issues and ensure that women and young children and young girls are not left behind. Let's push for a unified front at the front and ensure that when we enter a negotiation room, firsthand, I've witnessed these issues. I can speak to them. I can speak to the young woman who sits in Accra, who is currently being faced by heat stress. 2 weeks ago, we had a major crisis in Accra, where we had about more than 40 lives lost to the issue of flooding. Let's talk about this issue. When I enter a negotiation room, I'm able to speak to it because I've seen firsthand how my streets get flooded when it rains for 2 hours, when it rains for 3 hours. That is a big issue that needs to be tackled, not only in negotiation rooms, but also with policy implementation and also driving for a positive change at the end of the day.
Oh my goodness. I mean, 40 lives in a flood. I mean, and if it rains for 3 to 4 hours, then you have to give lots of life for this. I mean, with very hard, with heavy heart. I mean, on the news as you're breaking out about the 40 lives for the recent flood. My goodness, but I am really hopeful. What you are doing is so exponential that you are creating the future for yourself and for the generations next. You yourself being a young woman, and you're not only advocating for yourself, but you believe in inclusivity. And I really admire not only for your financial front, not only your the inclusivity of the communities in the decision making, or maybe in the negotiations that are going on in your countries, and and especially when it comes to like lady like yourself, you are also including the communities into the urban planning also. And thank you so much for thinking for the women and children safety, and taking the point for the planning to be included. I mean, when the planners are planning the cities, and I really thank you. I have no words to thank you. I want to feature you lot many more times, because if we talk of climate, you're there. If we talk of urban planning, you're there. If we talk of administration, you're there. If we talk of financial planning, you're there. And I mean, you're an entrepreneur also, and you believe in women empowerment. So there are a lot many aspects that need to be covered. Thank you so much, Miss Eveti Henkara. I'll feature you once, lot many times again.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so much, and stay blessed, and bye bye.
Thank you so much for having me, Zafar. It's up to be here.
Thank you so much. Stay blessed. Bye bye.